And we're live, coming to you from not the Permian today, actually. Tally book troubleshooting, brought to you by American Safety Services. Call us today for all your safety permitting, training, PPE, you name it, environmental services. Check us out today. I'm your host, Keith Stelter, trying to bring a little positive PR, spread a few good messages along the way, showing that the oil and gas industry is a whole lot more to it than people imagine. Normally, I come to you from the heart of the Permian Basin, but today I am coming to you from the DFW area. We're on vacation. It's spring break. The kids are out of school. So we are hanging out with family here, having a blast around DFW, and things couldn't be better. Happy to be out here. We're actually in Cleburne, Texas, the old stomping ground, the heart of the Barnett Shale, and a lot of good memories out here. This is where I first transferred out years and years ago with Schlumberger and worked this beautiful area. And man, I wish it would have never slowed down out here. Before we get to the show, a couple quick announcements. Thank you to everybody to the API shoot that came out there. That was an amazing event. Great to see everybody out there. Thanks to Janie Snelson, Scott Emerson, Kathy Carpenter, everybody else out there that makes that event go. It was a great time and enjoyed by a lot of folks. Man, normally I write this down, but because I'm not at home, I'm not as prepared as I usually am. Check out this Friday and Saturday. We're going to try and have a trash cleanup in Odessa. So posted about it. A lot of people are complaining how dirty it is around Odessa and Midland and all that. So we're finally just going to get some folks together, some trash trailers, hopefully. We're going to start at Yukon Road in Quadri, that corner over by the Idea School in Odessa. We're going to try and clean up that road. It's big, it's open. It's not the dirtiest road, but it's wide open. It'll be able to keep you safe walking along that. Check out next week. We got Shad Fraser on. He's going to be talking about the cost of energy. And the week after that, we're going to have David Wallace on talking about how you get oxygen out of a midstream how you prevent oxygen from going into your sales line in a midstream facility. So check that out. Also, April 17th, Social Octane. We're going to have the golf games over in Odessa. Check out those guys. And April 19th to 20th is in Del Rio, Texas. We're going to have the Permian Basin Oilman's Bass Invitational, which raises money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation for North Texas and New Mexico. Check it out. I think they still have spots. If you're into fishing, that is definitely the place to be. And Del Rio is quite the border town. I went last year and was shocked how beautiful the place was, the lake, everything in the area. Go check it out. Now, tell me where you're watching from, if anybody actually is watching. I hope somebody tuned in today. Hopefully my wife signed up at least. Maybe I can count on her. Let me know where in the country or where in Texas or maybe even Canada if you're watching from there. We're going to be talking about helping out the Panhandle. Recently, they had some fires out there. And without any further ado, I'm going to let Billy do his own introduction, let you know as little or as much as he wants to. But let's welcome Billy Mitchell to the show. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming on. You reached out. You wanted to talk about this event, and I'm more than happy to use some vacation time to do so. Sounds like it's a good cause.
Well, thank you for having me, Keith. First of all, I owe you a bottle of bourbon from there in Cleburne. There's a couple of decent distilleries there, so we'll have to send you a thank you.
No thanks necessary. I'm happy to do
it. We appreciate it. My name's Billy Mitchell. I've been in the energy sector in one way or another my entire adult life, primarily on the accounting side, but there was about a 5-year period where I got a wild hair and started a services company in the great state of Oklahoma, turning drill cuttings into fertilizer. Enjoyed it. Sold out of it in 2015. Realized you can't retire in your early 30s and went back to accounting. And here we are today down in beautiful San Antonio working for a large conglomerate of energy companies and couldn't be happier. But today specifically we're on because As you had mentioned, the Panhandle has just been obliterated with these wildfires. I'll be honest. When it happened, my sister texted me and said, "Hey, have you checked on Sean?" And Sean Kennedy is the person that we'll be talking about and his family. And I said, "No, what's up?" And she said, "There's fires." So I texted him, said, "Hey, are you guys okay?" About 2 hours later, I get a call, and it was pretty dire that night. The firefighters were working to save his house, save his corrals, save his barns, and they actually did. Um, but that night, it seemed like it was a total loss for him. Looked like he was going to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 cow calf pairs.
Oh, wow.
He didn't. I mean, he's been very lucky, and his family rallied together, cut fences, tore down gates. So far, they've lost one cow to the fire. They've lost. He's had to put down about 20 head of calves. He'll have to put down about 20 more cows at the end of the year, but right now enough of their udders were still viable to where they could feed. So just talking about the cost associated with that, and then he has 40 calves that are just completely missing still, and he's what I would consider lucky in this instance. I mean, but when you start doing the math right now, I think people talk about per pound or per hundred, but you're dealing with about $1,200 per calf, $3,000 per cow. If he's lucky enough to sell these cows at just a butcher sale, he might get $1,100. So be a pretty significant loss there. And then it's the things that you don't think about in these instances. It's the windmills that were melted. It's the fence lines that were destroyed. It's the
Pasture itself, right? Like there's nothing for these things, the cattle to eat or drink anymore, correct?
No, and that's where I would say a lot of these ranchers have been very blessed. Um, I was talking to Sean last night, and he's received hay from Oklahoma, from everywhere in Texas. He got a load of alfalfa from Ogallala, Nebraska yesterday. I mean, people have reached out, and it's nice to see the best in people. But it's still you're dealing with an independent rancher that bootstrapped himself up to starting a ranch. People that are fairly familiar with that industry, and I'm not. I grew up in the Panhandle. I love ranchers. I'm not one. I'm not nearly strong enough to be a rancher or man enough. But it's a life that revolves completely around what you're doing. Like every penny you have goes into it, and things like cattle insurance aren't something that independent ranchers necessarily have. Again, Sean's been lucky in that respect, but when you talk about 6,000 acres of lost pasture, all his watering holes were either windmills were melted or the water was contaminated. Yeah, and then you start thinking about fence line. 6,000 acres. That's roughly 16 miles of fence line. I don't think people really understand that. Barbed wire. That's corrugated metal. Generally, it doesn't hold up to a fire that burns that hot. So, looking at the expenses, there's a huge need there, and that's where
there's
the
thousands of ranchers, right? Like 6,000
yes,
acres is just for
yeah,
him, right? So
yeah.
was it over 1 million acres was burned?
3 million
That correct?
acres, I think, is what I heard on the news last night altogether. I mean, the original fire, the Smokehouse Creek fire, which is starting to be contained. It's still not completely contained.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, when I talked to Sean last night, it's just one of those things that rains, it pours. Some of the old water wells are sparking fires right now because the grass is so dry. So
I
this
thought they had gotten some snow up there and things
that
were kind of turned around, but that I guess it's such a large area.
it
That
is,
doesn't
and
mean every place got it, right?
right, and that's where the news reports, oh, we got 3 inches of snow, and that's helpful. But anyone who's ever been to the Panhandle, it was 90 degrees 3 days before that happened, and it was pretty warm shortly after, and the wind was back up to the 40s and 50s, and I mean 40, 50 mile an hour gusts. It's been an undertaking, and it'll continue to be a problem, and that's where a lot of this awareness comes in because it's a huge story. It was national news, and people are at their best when these things first happen. But people don't want to, and rightfully so, they don't want to just insert themselves into a tragedy like this if they can get in and get out and get on with life. And that's where I think things like the MZ Foundation are so important because the MZ Foundation is an amazing foundation. It specializes though in making a big difference to individuals as opposed to and I every charity is viable and something that we're all thankful for. But in the case of the MZ Foundation, we specialize in scholarships for individuals. We help individuals with cancer treatment. We're always looking for a worthy cause, and this lined right up with what we were doing. And in this case, we're trying to make as much of a difference for one rancher and his family as possible. And we're hopeful that other foundations or people or towns will rally around their ranchers in the same way. And we do have a goal that's set up for Sean and his family. And if we hit it, we're just going to go find another family and try to help them. And we're going to keep raising money until I can't shake pennies out of people's pockets anymore. And
Could you elaborate a little bit more? What is the MZ Foundation and what is your
yeah,
role with it?
well, the MZ Foundation was founded several years back. It was named after uh, one of the former executives in our offices. He passed away, and long story short, it when he died, they named it in his honor, and their original goal was to help with cancer research, paying for cancer treatments, and paying for scholarships for children. Those were things that our owners and the founders are very passionate about. It also does help with things like the Texas Department of Safety, and there's some other organizations that are easily attainable and able to be seen on our website. But again, there's two things about the MZ Foundation that I just love, and that's number one, from an operating cost standpoint, they have one employee. Everything else is volunteer. So all the accounting's volunteer, all the check processing's volunteer, all the fundraising's on a volunteer basis. So from a standpoint of what that means, and like the case of Sean, really the only costs we've had are the cost of processing donations through PayPal. So for every dollar that's come in, $2.48 have gone to PayPal for processing the transaction. Or I'm sorry, for every $100 that's come in, $2.48.
I figured that was where you were going.
Yeah, I apologize. But it's 2.48% total on that. What it is on PayPal. If, for instance, you made a very generous donation to us, Keith, of your donation, there would have been a 1.99% fee from PayPal and then a 49-cent transaction fee on top of that. So beyond that, I'm proud to say we wired a pretty nice check out this morning to Sean and his family. And the only fees that were held out of that were the PayPal fees. And that's something that I think we'll continue to be proud of. And it's one of the reasons why we haven't necessarily grown the MZ Foundation to to become a mammoth not for profit, because every penny that we can route to people in need or causes that are worthy, as opposed to paying for someone to sit in a chair and process those things, is invaluable in our
You're
opinion.
keeping it at a manageable size, and that's great to hear it. A lot of people have those great ambitions helping folks. I know myself, I like working with a lot of different folks who do that,
Mhm.
and you get to pick and choose where does the money go, right? And not to say that the bigger charities aren't helping folks out, but a lot does get used for running the actual organization when you get to a certain size. And frankly, there's nothing wrong with that, because then
Yeah.
your reach is able to, get to a lot of things, and all the best to them. But I applaud you guys. You want to help people out, and you're could get bigger, but you're keeping it as manageable for great people like yourself. I imagine you're doing some of the accounting there. I hope
Yes, sir.
volunteering, and maybe that's your role. And awesome to hear.
I'm
You got
yeah.
a uh, event coming up to help raise money for this, don't you?
Yes.
Or do I?
Yes, absolutely. So again, we work very closely with the Texas DPS Foundation, and they have a big barbecue cook-off coming up on March 23rd in Midland. It's actually going to be at I apologize if I mispronounced the park. I haven't been to Midland in a few years, but it'll be at uh, either Scarbauer Sports Complex or Scharbauer Sports Complex.
Scarborough?
Yes, at
I think that's
57.
acceptable. I don't know who's watching out there from Midland. Are we completely off base? Are we close there with the pronunciation? Let me
Yeah.
know where y'all watching from. If you're watching from the Midland, Permian, North Texas area here, let me know if that's more like it's barbecue cook-off. You're still looking for teams, correct, Billy?
We are, and I want to be very clear that this is a DPS Foundation event. They've been gracious enough to let me come down there and basically pass around a hat and set up a banner to raise money for the wildfire victims, particularly the Kennedy family. But the event is definitely a Texas DPS Foundation event. Um, what's cool about it is it's actually sanctioned by the International Barbecue Cookers Association. Um, my understanding
Wow.
is that it basically takes an act of Congress to get that to happen. They are looking for a few teams. If you have any interest, the person to contact would be David MacArthur, and his email is david@opstrategies.net. Once again, that's david@opstrategies.net. David is the one employee of the MZ Foundation, and he also sits on the Texas DPS Foundation board. Great man. We're looking for right now additional teams. If they want to sign up, he can give you the specs on how to do that. Or if you just want to come by and donate to either cause, uh, obviously I'm going to be front and center, and I take up a lot of real estate and got a fairly big personality. So I think I'm going to take a sign that says I'm going to threaten to take off all my clothes if I don't raise $50,000. And
That's a pretty bold move there.
I think if you see me live, I think we'll raise some cash. So I'll joking aside, I'll be there. But we've got about 500 open seats right now. It is definitely a bring your own beer event. But on Saturday, the gates open at 8 a.m. The awards conclude at 5 p.m. It'll be a great time. It's all for charity. Um, Anyone that wants to come by is welcome to, or if someone's a grill master, uh, please contact David. And we're really looking forward to that. And I'm very grateful to the DPS Foundation for sharing one of their big fundraising events with us for this cause.
Perfect. No, that sounds like a a heck of a time. Do they have live music or anything else? Any other details you can share about the event, or is it just strictly you're there for the food and get there early and be hungry?
There is going to be live music from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. I'm glad you asked, Keith. Um, there's also going to be a few guest speakers. I think they're playing it close to the vest on who they are, but it sounds like they would be worthwhile to hear and meet. And I'm working with a couple of the ranchers. I would love for some of them to come down and share their story with us in person. Um, Given where they're at and what they're dealing with, I don't know that that'll be possible, but I do have a couple of them that are uh, driving around the ranches with video cameras talking about what happened, and hoping to string together, a 5 or 10 minute video to share with people. Because again, there's what the news reports, and I'm grateful for the news reporting on this and shedding some light on this area. Um, but I don't think the true depth and breadth of this is, people aren't going to feel this until the summer at the grocery store. But I hope everyone enjoys hamburger now, because it's going to get really expensive really soon. And there's a lot of good ranchers that are taking a beating right now. And I think that's where they're probably the community that probably gets underserved in this instance. And I'm glad that charities rush to the towns and help them. Those people have suffered losses. They've lost homes, pets, and unfortunately, in some circumstances, loved ones. But there's really not a ranch that you can go to. And if you've never been to the Panhandle of Texas, it's hard to understand that it's effectively all ranch land. And I mean, you made a great statement earlier that there's thousands of ranchers that have been impacted by that. You couldn't be more right. And I would just, like to tell people, even if you're not interested in going through the MZ Foundation or the DPS Foundation, or find a way to help. I mean, take up an offering at your church and just drive to the Panhandle, and trust me, you won't have to look long to find someone to help. And that would be what I would tell people right now.
As a kid that grew up on a ranch myself, we did grain farming and ranch. And you mentioned earlier, this particular gentleman you're trying to help, we might have to put down some more cattle. Would it be a benefit for people to be and this, I'm just going by maybe a little bit of old history, things are maybe different in Texas or what have you. Would it be a good time to go out and buy a whole bunch of beef now to create some capacity for some of these slaughterhouses that may, they can only produce what they can sell to a certain extent, but if people are buying it and putting it in their freezers, does that free up capacity for when you have to put a few cattle down, that instead
Keith,
of just putting them down and letting it go to waste, they could take it in and they could get it sold right now? Would that help some of the issues out there?
I don't know, but I think it's that kind of out of the box thinking that could help a lot of these ranchers out right now. And
sounds like everybody's got to go to the store today and empty out all the beef so that the manufacturing, the slaughterhouses can start upping their game to help a few folks. I know they're going to probably have to sell a whole bunch of cattle just because there's nothing up there to feed them. I know folks are sending up bales. I'm in Cleburne. My mother-in-law, a friend of hers, she lost her husband, and they had some bales just on their ranch, and they just said, "Hey, you're looking for hay, just come on down and come get it." And they came down and they got it. So I know people are doing what they can to help, but maybe it's the everyday person they don't have bales to give away. And maybe they can go in and buy their summer beef now and put it in the freezer. Maybe that's a solution. I don't know. Maybe talk to your friend. Maybe we can start a nice little online campaign. Buy your beef now.
You know what? I'm actually going to mention that to him this afternoon, and see what his thoughts are. I know on his cows, the only reason that some of them haven't been hauled to slaughter at this point is they have calves that they're able to feed. They've got 2 good udders out of 4, whatever. So, but that's a great point, and from a standpoint of knowing what your beef's like and freshness, that's kind of a brilliant idea, Keith. It really is, and
I just don't want somebody, I get maybe it's smoke inhalation, maybe there's some burn, or maybe, running the cow, got a hurt leg and they got to be put down now. But, instead of that going to waste and going in the back 40 there to just rot, maybe, like I said, maybe we can up some capacity here. Texas loves its beef. So does Oklahoma. So does a few places.
yes, sir.
Let's fill the freezers up, and like you said, then we can kind of even this out, because if they lose it now, it's not going to be available later there in the summer for everybody to have. And like you said, prices go up, and that slows down things too, right? Prices might go up, but then people stop buying as much. So let's try and I don't know, maybe that's an insane.
No, I don't
Maybe not.
think so, and I think anything we can do to help these ranchers out, and I like where you're at, because right now, if you sell at a barn, you might get somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000, and then as well as anyone, that beef price is going to skyrocket in the store. So that's a great possibility, and I will mention that to Sean and see what his ideas are. And I mean, it's not just him. His father manages the Alabates Ranch there in the Panhandle. It's one of the big namesake ranches in that area. It's been around for years and years and years. Owned by a great family. And there's just tons of these stories, and I hope that people, if there's one takeaway from this, it's just do something. Do something.
Make a donation. Where can people make a donation? You mentioned the one, what was it, email address of the one gentleman who's going to be
Yes.
there.
So
Can you go online? Is
you
there a
can.
link you can share?
Yes, I can. The MZ Foundation. It's exactly what it sounds like. I'm actually looking
If
it
you
up to make
Google it,
sure I
you'll
don't.
just MZ Foundation just comes up right in Google, correct?
It should, and I was actually looking for the exact link. It's super easy to find, mzfoundation.com. And then if you want to go straight to the donations page, it's mzfoundation.com/charitable-contributions. And that should
Perfect.
take you there. I've certainly put out a couple of posts, on LinkedIn with that information, but I'll be happy to recirculate it. We'll take every donation we can get, and I'm a big believer in transparency. This is going to one family. This is not, if and I know some people might look at that and feel differently, and if they do find a donation that lines up with what your personal belief system is. But for me, this is extremely personal. Sean's been my oldest friend in the world. We became friends the first day of kindergarten in 1987. Believe it or not, our friendship kicked off with a fist fight on the playground, and apparently it blossomed into man love after that. We've literally not lost touch, and I'm 42 years old today, so 37 years. One friend. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. But
Well, God bless you for doing this, and it'll inspire other people to put events just like this. I had a few messages this morning of other people. They got a convoy or something going up April 6th, and there's other great things going on. So happy to share as many of them as possible, and really appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you for having me, Keith. This is huge. I really do appreciate it. And if you're in Midland on the 23rd, come by and look me up, and
You got a ticket for me if I come by there or what?
I can promise you there will be a ticket for you.
Excellent. Okay. Do you have to buy tickets or something for anybody
No,
watching? Do you have
right
to?
now,
Is
right
it
now the
free or you
tickets
just sign up or what do you got to do?
they are free right now, and you can go through David MacArthur if you're interested in getting some tickets. Again, that's David at opstrategies.net. The only thing I'll say is that this is the first year of this cook-off, so they're limiting it to 1,000 people in the park. First of all, the city of Midland said that's all they can have, and second of all, they want to get their ducks in a row and turn this into a multi-year event. So this will be our live beta test, if you will.
Perfect. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. We'll get together and we'll have some eats, I'm sure, and go from there. And you can tell me all about what you got going on here. I'm sure you got a million different things. I want to hear more about that fertilizer thing you used to
Oh,
do.
okay. Yeah.
I don't know. My dad used to chase that down. All the oil guys when they would drill near us in Alberta. So I was always curious to what was all in that, but. Well, for another time, definitely. Thank you, sir, for
Absolutely.
coming on. Anything else you want to shout out before we wrap up here?
No, just a huge thank you again.
Appreciate it. No thanks necessary. Check out this Friday. We're gonna have a cleanup, Faudree Road and Yukon Road in Odessa, Texas. We're gonna try and see if we can start getting people together on a regular thing to clean up the Permian. And next week, check out Shad Fraser, same time, same place here. And until next time, that's how you troubleshoot. See you, everybody. And